Right now, the world is going through major changes. Spiritually, metaphysically, there are dimensions being added to the universe. People are ascending if they are a little bit if they have everyone has psychic ability and mediumship. Some people just have more, and some people need to work harder. The people that were perhaps mediums and saw the dead when they were little kids and freaked out and were like, no more, no more, may suddenly be seeing them again. People that someone were told their psychic abilities were of the devil may suddenly feel them coming back, because right now mankind is crossing over. I'm not sure when this comes out, but I have been telling people we're right on the cusp of, like, just be prepared to stay in December and January. It's going to get rough in the United States. We're about to turn over a whole new world.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hi, welcome to The Exploding Human. I'm Bob Nickman. My guest today, Karen Rontowski, the delightful Karen Rontowski, and we're going to be talking about paranormal activity and tarot, among many other things. But first, I'd like to invite you to visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com, and you can see all the photos of my guests, synopses of the episodes, and listen to the episodes. A little bio on myself, a donate button if you care to support the show. That would be great. And please subscribe for free to my YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Add the with Bob Nickman. Much appreciation for those things. My guest, Karen Rontowski, has been a stand-up comic for a long time, and that's how I know her originally. But I did not know that Karen has been studying tarot and paranormal activity for decades. And she, like most comics, is not afraid of the dark side, the shadow side of humanity. And so she has explored these things with an open mind, a very open mind. And we're going to be talking about how she does her tarot readings. And I'm going to talk to her about her studies in paranormal activity, as well as demonic possession, a little bit about that, not much, and consciousness, the spirit world, things that we can't see, that there is evidence to support the unseen, that Karen has, through many years of exploration and open-mindedness, had a window into seeing. This is Karen Rontowski. Good morning, Karen.
The minute you say good morning, a motorcycle goes by my house. So.
Oh, let's do it again. Good morning again.
Hey,
I didn't hear it.
Oh, good. I was going to say the motorcycle's coming back. I live on a very busy street. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so glad you're doing this morning. I know a little bit about tarot. I did a reading. I'm going to tell you this story, my own personal story. I have a friend whose wife does this. And when I first heard about it, I thought, like a lot of people, this is just fanciful nonsense and, like a fun little aside thing. I didn't believe, and I decided, well, I'm not going to disbelieve, but I'm not going to believe until I see something. So this was when I was doing stand-up a lot, and it was my career. And one of the cards, I'll never forget this card, came up, and it was a guy jumping off of a cliff into the dark. And it was a career card for whatever reason. I don't know how this works, and she looked up at me and she said, "You're going to have a really big career change." I had not thought about it. I had not explored it. I didn't have any intention of doing that. I went, "What are you talking about?" So I was sure at that point that it was nonsense. Well, several months later, this was, back 25 years ago, the bottom kind of fell out of the stand-up scene, and I was making a lot less money and there were a lot less gigs. And I sent an email to Tom Arnold, who was getting a TV show called The Jackie Thomas Show, and asked him for a job. I had never written on a sitcom in my life. I didn't know
Hmm.
I knew I wrote jokes. So I called him up, that's not something I ever did. It was just out of desperation for, income. And he said, "No, I'm staffed up, but you can start on Roseanne in 3 weeks." So that was my first job as a TV writer. And I remember thinking that card was right. And
Yeah,
this was less than 6 months later.
there's your card.
There I see the card.
It's
Oh,
the fool card. She might have had a different deck, but it is literally taking the leap into something else. It's the first and the last card of the deck.
there's a lot to be said for this stuff. I mean, maybe they're just strong tendencies, and you can obviously, I could have not called the guy, not taken the job. I could have done that, I suppose. That was my free choice at that point. But the fact that that possibility entered my brain at that moment because she said it, and it just rested there in the back. I never thought about it until circumstances change. So I know you're doing a lot of readings. I'm doing a lot of talking, and I want to hear you.
That's okay. I can give you a good explanation that will make you feel a little scientifically better about the cards because and I almost, there's an effect that I wonder happens too because ladies come to me a lot that can't get pregnant, and I will pull immediately like two pregnancy cards, and she'll say, "No, we've been trying for 20 years." And I go, "I don't know what the problem is. It's right here. Literally a call in a month. You're not going to believe it. I'm pregnant." Happens all the time. And sometimes I wonder if subconsciously I've given them permission to let it happen. But the tarot, which is, I'm sort of a tarot historian. I know all the symbols, the colors, what they mean. And I have studied the cards for probably 30 years. And I still get up every day and find a new book because I love them that much. But they're actually, they call them the archetypes that Jung talked about, and the dream are sort of the same as dream archetypes that you would actually be dreaming this same thing. In other words, it all means the same thing. The high priestess would mean mystery in your dreams. So they're not just sort of cards that come out of nowhere. They've sort of been built on the subconscious and psychology for many, many years, or vice versa. The cards built psychology. But it is coming from something. They used to say, somebody told a story that gypsies that didn't speak the same language used to carry different decks with them so they could come up to a different tribe and they could say, show them a picture. Do you have a medicine man? Show them the picture of the magician so they could communicate through them. But every time someone tries to say, this is where they were developed, they find another card deck back further. They also are the people that get weird about woo woo. This is where our regular playing deck comes from, and this is also where chess comes from.
How far back does it go so far? Has it been discovered that people have been doing this?
I can't tell, and I think there's some people that will tell you it was this time or the first deck was made then, but it's almost like anything. It's like astrology or all these things. Every time they dig back further, they find another one. Or they always said the woman that these two sisters created the Ouija board, they called it the talking board, but people had been doing that sort of thing way before it sort of became discovered historically. But the other thing, I teach a tarot class. People buy it on my website. The Fool's Journey, the first part of the first 22 cards of the deck are called the Fool's Journey, and it's how you come into this consciousness, and then what you learn through life, and then you run into trouble and how those troubles get fixed. But it's very interesting because Ron Howard says there's only one story. Some writers say there's three stories. Ron Howard says there's only one. The Fool's Journey is that story. If you were to use your deck right up against Lord of the Rings, you would know what was coming immediately. So it tells a story of the cycles of life.
I love the fact that it's called The Fool's Journey, because it does
Yeah.
feel like, as a human being, you feel, in terms of, I guess, the rest of the universe, kind of foolish, kind of not really. But fool to me is not somebody who's stupid. It's just,
Right.
it means like there's a silliness to it, an absurdity, an irony, and everything. It's kind of a fun word to me, The Fool's
Yeah.
Journey, because
And in
it ends really quickly, with a blink of an eye. This one, anyway. I
Mhm.
don't know about, returning ones, but certainly this one's real quick.
Yeah. And they also, in tarot, the reason he's the fool is because he's a free thinker. And they always say, everyone who had an original idea was called a fool before the idea worked, and then they were called a genius. So is he a fool, or is he a genius for sort of going his own way and doing his own thing?
I was just talking about that with my wife this morning, about doing things because um, it's seen as cool or normal, if the idea of fitting in, all that energy that people spend, rather than being, I guess the word would be, authentic, and risking being called a fool or being mocked or laughed at. And I always say, there's nothing to fit into. If there
Right.
was, I would probably do it, but there really isn't.
That's always been something that fascinated me about comedy, because to me, all comedy is anarchy. If you're making fun of TV commercials or you're trying to overthrow political, parties, it's all anarchy. And I always notice that, especially in Hollywood, they have cliques. And it's the old saying of Groucho's, like, I wouldn't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member. And I always was so suspicious. You can't have a clique and be in comedy. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't. And it's also, a misuse of the art form if you're not being an anarchist that way. And it doesn't have to be, decimating societies. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about social awareness, to say, this thing that's now the norm, maybe it shouldn't be. Let's look at it from a different angle and tear it down a little bit and get some laughs out of it at the same time.
Right. Or yourself. You could say, why do I act like this? That seems like silly. In fact, a weird, because I do paranormal too. And this is going to get really weird fast,
Good.
Bob.
Oh, good, good.
Okay.
This is what we wanted. The
So
weirder, the faster, and the weirder, better.
I do paranormal investigation, and I very rarely run into a demonic case, but I've run into one lately, and I've been doing all this research. And they say that whenever you meet someone that has a demonic attachment or a possession or whatever you want to call it, it's always like Mother Teresa said she had it. Or this person that I'm working with now, it turned out to be this girl that everyone's saying, this was the sweetest girl, never said a bad thing, never did a thing, anything like that. And you research demons, first of all, they were known as teachers. They were brought there as teachers. They were teaching you when you were off course. And it's interesting because my friend was saying she channels information, and she had a very interesting channel where she said demons are locked here because they are literally human beings' shadow side, or their dark side, the side that they don't want to show anybody. And it created an energy that actually creates these entities that are evil. They're everything we don't want to look at. And they will stay locked into this reality until we humans start taking care of our dark side. And comedians are great at taking care of their dark side. But when you meet someone who's all sunshine and rainbows and there's no flaws, that's someone that is not in touch with their dark side that you kind of have to watch out for. Make sense?
To me, absolutely. I mean, I've always been suspect of the overly cheery. I'm like, really? All day long, this is going on for you? I mean, it's like, I'm like, I want to follow those people behind closed doors and see what they're actually doing.
Right. Who are they
Now,
murdering in their who
well,
are they
so tell me
hurting?
about this demonic possession, though. I'm fascinated. Or maybe you can't. And I obviously no names.
Yeah, no name. It probably wouldn't be anyone would know anyways, but it's usually it's very, very rare. In fact, I rarely talk about it just because people get scared. Then people that see ghost hunting, they see ghosts, which are literally human spirits, and then they see demons, and that's it. And they completely miss that there's a whole encyclopedia of garbage between there. Now, I shouldn't say garbage because some of them are like not necessarily good or bad, but paranormal activity can be so many other things. And there is literally 0.00001% that someone is going to run into a demonic haunting. They could have a human thing that seems scary because, as we say, and as I say with my friends, don't start a fight with something you can't see. So it could be anything in your house that's aggravated. There are elemental spirits that are here to take care of the earth. There are literally fairies. In the Middle East, they have jinn. It's a whole, like, there's so much that it could be. But this story happened because usually someone stupid has conjured something, and then it's in this place, it's locked in an apartment or something, and they leave. All I can tell you is learn from this case. If you get into a house in a very expensive area and the landlord says, "We've had a little trouble," I tell you what, rent is free. Don't move in.
We've had a little trouble.
No,
What was the
it's
trouble? A murder?
the trouble was somebody conjured something and then it was in that place. There was a case of a house in Chicago where the haunting was so bad, they literally, this was in the 70s, they ended up selling the house for $10. They just couldn't get rid of it. They didn't even have it halfway. They were just like, who will take this? And someone took it for $10.
Do you just tear the house down at that point and the spirit would go away?
Well, it's actually kind of it's such a it's like why I have conversations for hours. It's such a detailed thing because I could go into a house and the thing hates me and attacks me and my family, and I move out and you move in and they're like, "Nah, this guy's fine." You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like, this
okay.
guy's
Yeah.
not ruining our vibration at all. Third person moves in. Oh no, now we got a problem. Sometimes sometimes it is the thing, like, and it doesn't even have to be a big deal or scare anyone out. Like, I live in a complex that people continually move into one apartment and they're out in 6 months, over and over and over and over. And there's just a bad vibe in that apartment. Nobody comes out saying they were attacked or scratched, but it's just they get in there, they start fighting. There's a negative energy that affects everybody out time after time.
Probably some kind of history in there in the walls.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow. So you actually go to people say I have something going on in my home or my apartment, and you go there and you investigate. And how do you do that just by your own intuition and your own vibration, or do you have instruments that you go in with to measure things, cameras? What do you do? How do you do this? Because I mean, I've seen stuff on TV, which I kind of go, I don't know. But now I actually know someone who I
Yeah.
trust.
There's many ways to do it. And the thing about TV, the TV shows are good and they're using the equipment right and they're presenting it right. But TV, a producer has decided how the episode's going to end. So, but they are, they're all doing what it takes to do it. It depends who I'm working with or what's going on. They'll usually give me the first part of the story and say someone they say, I got a lot of activity in my house. And we sort of assess the activity. If someone has sort of a poltergeist, they have things that are being moved and that's not really dangerous, but they're being pushed around. The first thing you want to find out is how much do these things weigh? Because human spirits can move things that weigh up to 2 pounds. So if keys are moving, maybe something's getting pushed, we can kind of assess that's a human spirit. You want to find out about the history of the house, that type of thing. If things are a little bigger, we will start a different process. But what's interesting is my favorite story of a human haunting goes to this couple moved into a house, and the people that lived there before built the house. They lived there for 70 years. I don't know, they were old couple. They lived there. They both died. The kids sold the house. Every morning they get up, the kitchen cabinets are opening. No matter what they do, kitchen cabinets are opening. So they finally called the kids and they said, well, that was our parents when they first built the house. My mom wanted open cabinets. She did not want cabinet doors. And one day she went to work, came home, and her husband had put cabinet doors on. So she was so mad. Every morning she would get up and open them just to show him, I don't want these. That's called a residual energy. She did it every time with so much energy that that energy literally goes on. That fight that that couple had goes on past their time in the house. They've made an energetic imprint, which is just a reason I'll never get married. But that's my favorite human story. You can
Wow.
also have somebody who's in the house who doesn't know why you're in their house. So they might be literally like that movie, The Others, walking around like, who is in my house? They may be as afraid of them as you are. So they're like, who's moving stuff? Who's doing things? When you get past that, like a poltergeist where things might be moving a little more, you will almost 90% of the time find there's a teenager in the house who just passed puberty that is very, very psychic and is not processing that energy well. So sometimes a poltergeist will be an energy coming off someone in the house.
An actual living person who's in the house.
Living person,
Oh.
yeah, who's not handling, like, have you ever, like, I have a tendency to break printers because they make me so angry, and I don't even have to be near the printer. It or you can actually, some people can get angry enough. It usually happens more with anger than love, that they are own computers. There are people that literally vibrate at a rate that does not work with computers, and they can break a computer just by being around it. They did tests with that at the Rhine Institute. So when someone has trouble, first I got to find out what it is. If it's a minimal amount, there are things that people can do to cleanse their own home, which they should do to just sort of keep the vibration up. You can do, just say prayers. You can play upbeat music. You can put crystals in your house. I burn incense every day. It just sort of puts that kind of magical energy of protection around. And then we see where it goes from there. If it's somebody really thinks they have something demonic going on, it's a long process. They have to fill out an entire form with very careful questions that we ask, because I don't go in for those, but the people that I work with that go in, they have to know what they're dealing with when they go in. So it's a very, it's, are there any particular smells in the house? Are there, all kinds of questions? Is there any mental illness? And so it gets very deep. But like I said, those are really rare.
Yeah, I would think that would be super rare.
Yeah.
I do incense and sage. I'm a smoke burning guy. That to me is like, even when I have guests over after they leave, I
Yes.
burn sage in my house to get it back to my house.
Yes. And remember, sage is, a friend of mine, Angela Lavelle, has a saying. She says, sage is like spiritual bleach, it gets out everything. There's another stick, if you're ever at a paranormal store, that smells even better, and it's called Palo Santo. And when you burn that, it's just a little stick, it just gets out the negativity. So if someone left some good energy there, it stays.
How do you meld this paranormal study with the tarot cards? You said they kind of have blended for you in some way.
Well, I feel like they overlap. So people call me for tarot readings, which most of my readings are kind of what I call 3D. So they might be, am I going to get the job? Is my boyfriend leaving me? Who's good? How's my love life? Which is all well and good. That's most of my readings. But usually you're connecting with their guides, or you're getting information from sort of that same world. So I just put them both in the same category as habit. um, but I can tell you a weird, interesting story about, because right now the world is going through major changes, spiritually, metaphysically. There are dimensions being added to the universe. People are ascending if they are a little bit, uh, if they have, everyone has psychic ability and mediumship. Some people just have more, and some people need to work harder. The people that were perhaps mediums and saw the dead when they were little kids and freaked out and were like, no more, no more, may suddenly be seeing them again. People that someone were told their psychic abilities were of the devil may suddenly feel them coming back, because right now mankind is crossing over. I'm not sure when this comes out, but I have been telling people we're right on the cusp of like, just be prepared to stay in December and January. It's going to get rough in the United States. We're about to turn over a whole new world. It does blend over. Like if someone asks me about how haunted their house was, I was reading for someone and they couldn't sell a house. And I kept asking them, it's weird, there's a circular staircase. And he said, yeah, there is. And I was like, why am I constantly drawn to that staircase? What's going on with the staircase? And he kept saying nothing, nothing. And then I read for his mother, and his mother calls me immediately after and goes, yeah, he forgot to tell you someone hung themselves from that staircase. And I was like, well, that's what you have to fix in the house. That's the energy that's pushing everyone away. But it's I had an even stranger time years ago when I did ayahuasca. There was a vine, you speak with a vine spirit, and she showed me a African American man and an Indian woman both standing next to me, and I can remember exactly what the Indian woman looked like. I don't remember what the male looked like. And the spirit kept saying, this is you. And I kept saying, oh, this is my past life. And she kept saying, no, this is you. And I said, because there's no time. She kept like yelling at me, no, this is you now. There's three of you. You have three consciousnesses that are on the planet. And I sort of forgot about it because it didn't really make sense or it didn't apply. And then I'm reading for this woman, and she had a real scare with her husband. And she said every night he was an alcoholic, he was drinking, 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 which, by the way, is exactly how you attract things to you. That's why it's called spirits, because if you're drunk and your aura is not being taken care of, spirits can walk in and take over your body. So she said he was making these weird noises, and she would have to pray when she was next to him in bed. And I thought, he's not possessed. There's something else going on. And I close my eyes and I see the magician card, okay, and which is the card of occult. And I see a man, and he's looking at me, and this is when it gets paranormal. And I start to talk, and I said to her, this man, your husband, has another consciousness that is aware of him, and he's literally trying to get into your husband's body at night. So it's the other, like I had the two consciousness, he has another one that knows that he's trying to get into his body, that knows how to manipulate and jump into someone else's body. And that's why your husband at night, when he's going to bed, you're hearing weird noises and this guy's trying to get in. And as I'm looking at this magician, I go, this is so weird. He can see me. And which didn't really have anything to do with the reading, but I kept saying, this guy can see me. And so we finished the reading. Her husband's now in rehab. Everything's fine. But my apartment is starting to get very haunted. There's all kinds of weird stuff around my apartment. So I call my information guy and I go, hey, something's going on in my apartment. I sent him a couple of texts and they don't get through. And finally he calls me back and he goes, did you piss off a magician? And I go, no, I don't think so. And then he goes, you want to use anise. You want to use anise incense around your house. This clears up right away. And then I remember, I go, oh, that guy that could see me, that consciousness was like, I'm going to send her a little something so she doesn't look this way again. So obviously, Bob, you either think I'm nuts or at least just interesting by this point.
I don't think you're nuts. I know. I love this kind of stuff. I don't want to disbelieve anything. I think it's really interesting to look at this stuff. I mean, I think all human beings have had experiences that they can't explain, and feelings that there's no words for, and there's enough studies in this stuff that it can't be nothing. There's I did a podcast with two people that are associated with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and they study this stuff very scientifically. And and obviously when you do a study, it's going to be very subtle. It's not going to be the big sort of things that happen in random day-to-day occurrences like what you hear about. But it's quantifiable. It's really interesting stuff. I mean, have you ever just known something and you don't know how you know it? I mean, it's just that. Or
Mm-hmm.
you ever been in a room and all of a sudden you feel something weird, like on the back of your neck, your hair's standing up, and you look and there's somebody there that you didn't know was there? Then, and I guess you could say, oh, well, maybe you saw them in a mirror, or they have a perfume that, whatever it is, but it's not that. It's just, there is a vibration coming from somewhere. Pleasant ones too.
I took some classes at the Rhine Education, and they've been around for years, and they do big studies. There's a guy there named Lloyd Arbach that wrote a book called Mind Over Matter, and his stories are phenomenal. But you can, I think it's like $10 a month to look into their archives, but they have done so many, they're all fact. They don't fudge anything. In fact, the first day of class I said vibration, and they were like, what? We're not going to use that word here, because what is a vibration? So, but he is so brilliant, and he was one of the original, I think, wrote the first book on ghost hunting. But you'll be fascinated by him. I can give you all that information after, but
Oh,
he
great.
has stories just about chi and kung fu that'll blow your mind.
Yeah, so there's other things going on. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm doing my podcast is,
Open your
finding,
mind. Yeah.
open your mind, and mind, body, spirit, all those things. There's ways to do things that we haven't been taught yet. I try to keep an open mind. I'm not great at it. Get a big ego.
Well, ego, I think that's always, that's literally my prayer every morning. I do my morning papers, and my prayer is to keep my ego out of everything. Because even when I read tarot, that you have to have a certain amount of compassion for people. There's certain tarot readers that'll just be like, no, and he's a jerk, and this and that. And if you really understand the cards, you have compassion for just about everybody. And you realize, it's like, I remember years ago, man, if I got married and someone cheated on me, I would leave and that would be it. And now, after speaking with all different people, you go, people are human, and everything has a story behind it, and why it happened, or what's going on. And I've seen everything, Bob. I've seen affairs clean up marriages. I've seen affairs work out, where I can sometimes hear my mind and read the cards, and someone will call me about, like, a woman will call me about a guy and be like, she'll tell me all about him. And I'm thinking, if I'm this woman's friends, I'm like, you're kidding. He's not leaving you. He's not leaving his wife. And then I'll look at the cards and I'll be like, oh, well, stay with it. And then she'll call me a year later, we're getting married. So you have to it's like just teaching me to take the judgment out of everything. Every fight has two sides. When one person is terrible, you got to kind of take into consideration you're hearing one side.
Yeah, and also, what is the fear and the pain underneath the behavior?
Yes.
It's really easy to go, that person is an asshole or a jerk, or mean or whatever, but it's usually, I believe that most people are good in their essence, their human essence, and then the socialization and can make somebody behave in ways that are really harmful to other people and themselves, usually themselves the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's actually a scientific sort of level to intuition, because all this stuff that I do, I also like to study religions. And it's very interesting because tarot cards are a huge no-no in almost everything, in Islam and the Catholic Church. Yet the Catholic Church has a saint for psychics and mediums. And it's so funny because when I was a little kid, my favorite word was, I used to walk around saying busa gasa bus. People used to make fun of me. I'd say that all the time. So one day I Googled it. There is a patron saint of psychics and mediums, and his name is Agabus.
Wow.
So why would they give us a saint if they didn't believe? It's kind of the theory of controlling everybody's mind, controlling it with guilt, or, you control a person's sexuality, you control the person. And the cards actually are some of them are built on Christ's consciousness, but it's like when people want to learn to be psychic, what I teach them is they should get a lot of memory games on their phone. that gain concentration, because usually what happens is the very first thing that comes into your mind is right. And then you see someone and you go, oh, I don't like that person, and then you go, that's not nice, don't judge a book by a cover, and all the programming starts in to push that thought further and further back. And then later you go, I knew it, I knew that wasn't the right person. And kind of how that happens, I kind of call intuition and psychic two different things. Intuition is like when a guy walks in and your conscious mind takes a picture of him, throws it to the subconscious, and the subconscious goes through everything it's ever seen. And it goes, man, that guy holds his shoulders like the kid that beat me up in high school. And that guy's eyes look like that picture of Ted Bundy. And in a millisecond, it throws back to the conscious mind, I don't like that guy. That's all you know. I just know I don't like that guy. But it's literally a calculation. Now, it's interesting because the military put together something called remote viewing, which is literally psychic stuff taken to its most anal breakdown, technical way that psychic stuff works. And they did a perfect example. So you have your intuition, which is your information. Then I feel like you have your psychic, which is sort of the collective consciousness. And the way they described it, this guy described it in remote viewing. He said, if you threw a stone, skipped a stone across a lake, and then immediately froze that lake, you should be able to take a little piece of ice out of it. And if you can analyze the information in that piece of ice, you could figure out how fast the stone was going, where it came from, how it landed, and all that stuff should be in that small piece of ice. And that's kind of how the collective conscious works. We have access to it, but it's sort of a meditation in a state or a frequency that makes more people available to it right now than others. But you can change your frequency so anyone can do it.
I love that idea of I actually tried to do a stand-up bit about it and I couldn't quite get it because it came off too mean. But I was pulling into the parking lot of Trader Joe's with my daughter.
Which
And
is always dangerous.
Yeah.
Every parking lot of Trader Joe's is dangerous.
And I see
God
this
bless
man,
you.
right? I see this man. I've never seen him before in my life. And he's with his, I guess it's his wife. He's about, late 60s, early 70s. He has this sort of out of style kind of gold glasses on, like aviator style glasses, and a really sort of outdated curly short afro style hair. He's a white guy though. He's, and he's kind of dumpy and he's got sloped shoulders, and the wife has a terrible dye job on her hair. And I look at and I look at this guy and I hate him. I mean, it just went through my whole body. And I said to my daughter, I hate that guy. And she goes, why? I go, I don't know. I just hate him. I'm looked at him and I I hate him. She goes, well, maybe he reminds you of somebody that you don't like. I said, I don't think so. I that's not what it is. I go, I
It's a
don't
different
know.
feeling.
Yeah, I wasn't like, oh, he looks like so and so. There was just something about this guy. And then he passed me in the aisle in the store. About 10 minutes later, he went by me, and I everything I could do not to make a comment, or I turned away because I was so it was just like churning. I don't know why. And like, when the cars were coming by, he kind of put his arm around the wife like he was going to protect her. And I remember thinking, you're not going to protect anybody, you asshole. I mean, I just like it was absolutely the worst feeling in the world to hate this guy I've never seen before, but it was so strong. And I'm like, and I wasn't even miserable like about other things before that. I wasn't.
I'm so sorry I didn't fix my hair today. I don't want you to hate me, Bob.
No, there's nothing to do with that. It was just him.
That could be many things. He could be carrying an attachment or a dark entity around him that just, usually when you feel it in your stomach, That's
Yeah.
a low vibration. There's a very low vibration. Or it could have been a past life thing. He could have killed you, or he might just be a serial killer and you picked up on it. There's many many things that it could be, but you got to follow that instinct of, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this.
I feel so bad about myself for hating this guy. This guy could be curing diseases and helping all kinds of people.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't
Maybe,
matter.
yeah, maybe it's just because he was so tragically unhip that it just,
That would be very Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood.
but it wasn't that either because I don't care. I love nerds, I just,
I know. No, if something rubs you the wrong way, we're all connected in past lives too. So sometimes that's like too, when you're so attracted to someone that you can't understand, that's not even my type. What's going on here? What is that about? And it's just, there's a million things it could be, but people need to, pay attention when that happens.
yeah, trust those feelings to, you don't have to act on them. I mean, I wasn't going to run them down with my car or anything.
Yeah, let it be. But you can make a note. Make a note.
Wow, I love this stuff. I could talk about this for hours. It just makes me so excited that there's this whole other
Yeah.
unseen realm that is to me is just as real in or more in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I do a show called Psychic Stand Up where I read tarot from the stage and I make it funny. And my first CD is coming out. It should be out next week. But I'm doing a special. I'm trying to tape a special to release for myself, not on any big network or something. And it's all about how I somebody came over my house and was fooling with witchcraft and it went wrong and something got attached to me and how I got rid of it. And it's I've tried it quite a few times on stage. It's kind of hysterical, but in the moment it wasn't. But it's a very shall we say, outside the box paranormal comedy special I'm getting ready to put out.
I love that. What's it going to be called?
I believe it's either going to be called My Fairy Attachment or it's going to be called Captain of the Orion Interplanetary Army.
I like the second one.
It's a good name, isn't it? Someone told me that, someone told me I was they said, this is the joke. This is the joke in my act. So you don't have to laugh. I know that's hard. But somebody came up to me at a UFO conference and said, you have alien DNA. And she goes, there's a race of aliens. They're called Palladians. They're a peace loving people with smooth skin and they're beautiful. You're not one of those. And then she told me I was a captain. So I called my sister. I go, hey, I just found out I'm captain in the Orion Interplanetary Army. And without missing a beat, my sister goes, Orion is a constellation, not a planet. And I go, really? That's all you saw wrong with that statement?
Yeah, yeah, just that.
Just that. Everything else is fine.
Yeah. Well, that's, the stuff with like there's alien beings living on Earth. I don't know. That one I can't grasp that one. I believe there's, spiritual entities and things like that. And, but not.
You can ask me. I believe everything. I think.
You think people have landed here in spaceships and are like living next door to me?
I think they are. Well, it could be. I don't know. Maybe that's what that guy was at Trader Joe's. They shop at Trader Joe's. A lot of the aliens. They enjoy the Maripox, the hummus. But I kind of think we are hybrids from aliens. So I do a little conspiracy stuff too, or I think it's possible. But I think that if there's another dimension, like there's a very old book called Flatlands. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
It's like it's like back when the book, and I don't read much, so I'm very proud of this. When they were writing the Art of War and stuff like that, it's from then. And it talks about the different dimensions. And what they talk about is a two-dimensional beings that live like on a piece of paper. They live on a piece of paper. They're two-dimensional. And then this three-dimensional orb comes up and kind of goes through their world. But they don't see a circle or a globe. They see a straight line that gets wider and then it closes. And that's how from our world, we're in the three-dimensional globe. There's a fourth dimension right here that the spirits are in, and the aliens are in, that we don't really like. That's what you work on accessing. That's when the veil gets thin, people cross over. Like you will see someone will see a spirit go by, or I saw something out of the corner of my eye. That's that other dimension bleeding over.
I do understand that concept of the fourth dimension. It's like somebody would say if a being was in two dimensions, if somebody from the third dimension could reach in and take out a defective organ, and the person wouldn't even know it because they're coming in from another. You could do a surgery that way. So why couldn't somebody from a fourth dimension do that with us? I guess in that way, I'll be open to a little bit more. I was just thinking about this. There was a TV show, I don't know if you remember this, back in the 60s, called The Invaders. And it was about alien beings that had come to take over the earth, and they took human form. And there was one guy that knew they were here. And he had one sort of connection in the government that believed him, but nobody believed him. And they were trying to, put him away because he was crazy, but he would catch these people. But when he would kill them, they would glow and disintegrate. So there was never any proof. But the hilarious part of the show was they were us. They looked exactly like us, except for some reason, their pinkies were straight. They couldn't bend their pinkies. It's like they got it all right, except for the pinky. And that's how, like, he'd be somewhere and he'd look and people would be talking. He'd see that pinky and he'd have to kill the guy.
Did you ever look into the real Mothman prophecy?
I have not.
Oh my God. You want to watch a movie, it's a documentary called The Eyes of the Mothman. In the first part, you might be like, this is a little slow. They go into what happened, but it happened in Point Pleasant, Virginia. It's my favorite paranormal thing. All this stuff was happening all in Point Pleasant, and it all surrounded around this one bird-like creature that nobody could figure out what it was. And it's one of the most unexplainable. It's like the Skinwalker Ranch. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it, and it's well documented. And it's called Eyes of the Mothman. And it's, like I said, you get through the first part of the movie that was about what happened to the land and how the Indians, they said the guy cursed the land, and then you get into what started happening around there, and it's just I think I watched 100 movies on the Mothman. It's so fascinating.
How did I never hear about this? You're not going to zap me through the internet, are you?
My zapping powers are off today.
No, yeah, well, you're too nice anyway. Let's talk about your website and how people can get a hold of you. If I know you do tarot readings and all kinds of stuff. So let's plug Karen Rontowski.
Yes, so it's all KarenRontowski.com or ParanormalKaren.com. The podcast is called Paranormal Karen, and I have all kinds of healers. This week I have a Bigfoot guy, I have ghost people, I have demonologists, I have all kinds of whatever. If it's strange, it's on there. And then when they go to my website, the easiest thing is to tell people to sign up for my email list, because I'm not that active on Facebook. I have a new CD coming out. I will have on New Year's Eve, I think I'm going to do a Facebook Live with a whole bunch of psychics, everybody making predictions. You can book a reading there. You can take my tarot class. It's all there, KarenRontowski.com or ParanormalKaren.com.
And also, let's just say that you're a great comedian also.
And I can be funny.
You're really funny. Don't you have the Dry Bar Comedy thing coming out again, or what? Is it the same one that I saw?
My Dry Bar Comedy, if you put in Dry Bar Comedy Karen Rontowski, it's called Ridiculous Me. It's all over Facebook and all over the internet, and it just went viral. So I'm really proud of that and really happy. So that's good too.
It was great. And you have one of my favorite openings, which is the what store were you in when this happened?
I was in Walmart, and my kids were so bad, I actually pulled a fly swatter off the shelf and I spanked them. And just as the fly swatter hit their ass, I thought, I don't have kids.
I just love that. And then from there, you have the audience in the palm of your hand. That is such a funny opening. Oh, man. Wonderful. I'm going to have to do another one of these with you down the road.
Absolutely. I love working with you anytime, Bob.
Oh, that was so fun. I just love this stuff. I hope my listening audience is going to remain open-minded to these things, because this is I'm sure in my intro I'll say this is expand yourself.
You say we're going out on a limb, we're going out on the skinny branches.
We really are, and that's just the best. I'm doing more of that lately. I'm finding all kinds of, and then I do some more grounded sort of, health and healing kind of stuff. More, I don't know if practical is the right word, but grounded.
It's funny because I was trying to make a TV show once, and it was called a Psychic, a Skeptic, and a Dog Named Courage. And I had my friend who was a newspaper guy, and he said the rule of threes. And this is how people are open-minded, is we'd go to interview someone, and he would say, "So have you ever seen a ghost?" And the person would go, "No." And he'd go, "Really? You never in your whole life, you never saw a ghost?" "Nope." "Really? It's so interesting. Most people have, you're positive you've never seen a ghost." And they'll go, "Well, there was this one time." And then they would tell their story, but you had to hit them 3 times because no one wants to seem crazy. I'm very comfortable seeming crazy.
Yeah, me too. And being told I'm crazy.
Exactly. We're definitely the fool card.
I love that card. And folks, this is an audio podcast, but go get the Tarot Fool card and take a look at it. It's fantastic.
Google it. It's
Google
wonderful.
it. Yeah, Google it. You don't have to go get it. Just, plug into the computer. That's what we're doing. Well, thanks so much. Big success to you with
Thanks,
your
Bob.
specials and your comedy and your readings and all the great stuff you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I love it all.
Me too. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks for listening to The Exploding Human. And visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. And I just want to say another big thanks to Karen Rontowski. Check out her websites and get a tarot reading. It'll be great. You'll have a great time doing it. Thanks for listening in. Have a wonderful day.